Good afternoon from Arizona, everyone. My name is Sue Ann Carlson, and I'm the Executive Director from Homes on Wheels Alliance, otherwise known as HOWA, which is our acronym, HOWA. And I want to welcome you to the 11th annual RTR. And this year our classes are online. So glad to have you here. Today, or right now, our topic is basic safety on the road. And I would like to introduce you to Dawn Harkness, our speaker. Dawn is a retired attorney from Massachusetts. But right now her camp is in California. She is a full-time nomad. She's been on the road for 2 years and lives out of a ProMaster that she built out herself. So with that, Dawn, please take the floor. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thanks very much, Sue Ann. Can you hear me? Great. Okay. Thanks so much for that introduction, Sue Ann. I love volunteering for HOWA. If it weren't for Bob Wells, cheap RV living, classes just like this, I think my early nomadic experience would have been far more difficult. And I really enjoy the opportunity to help people learn from what I've learned in my own experience, but also kind of through life. I want to let people know that I also I'm here in California. I'm using a van, Joni Zander's van, the Gala van, as a studio. So because I'm a YouTube fool, I don't know anything about this stuff. So I'm hoping that I'll have the technological skills to get through here. But I want to thank Joni for being my backup. So I'm going to speak today about personal safety on the road. Most of my talk is going to be about the challenges facing solo nomads. And that's because everybody knows that the buddy system and traveling in formal or informal caravans is really the safest way to travel. Because if something goes wrong, it's good to be traveling with folks you can rely on. But sometimes, by choice or by circumstance, we have to travel alone. And our safety precautions may have to adjust to that. For a lot of you starting out on the road, you're starting out brand new, trying to find out this information. That's exactly what I did. But I know it would have been easier if I'd had some experienced people showing me the ropes on the way. This class is also going to be directed a little bit more towards a solo woman's perspective because, well, that's what I know best. Originally, this class was going to have two presenters, a man and a woman. One was a criminal defense attorney and another was formerly a cop. Sue Ann's already outed me, but the hint is I'm not a cop. And so we, on the who's who, but we had intended to present two very different perspectives on personal safety. He was intending to speak from his personal experiences. I was going to speak from mine. And I'd say that his approach was a little more aggressive than mine, and mine tends to be evasive and avoidance. Evade danger, avoid danger. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it. So I'm going to be doing this on my own. That means we won't be talking much about guns and weapons today, except that I do want to pass along this piece of advice that we both wholeheartedly agreed on. If you travel with a gun or a weapon of any kind, please make sure you know how to use it safely, effectively, and legally. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say on this topic. So if you need to know more about weapons, guns, those kinds of things, there's lots of channels on YouTube that discuss them. And I encourage you to find out that information from somebody who knows a lot more about it than I do. But I do know a lot about safety. And I think the number one question solo women travelers and van dwellers get about life on the road is, aren't you scared? For me, the answer is a resounding no. I actually feel less vulnerable in a van than I do in a sticks and bricks home. And I've lived in some very nice homes in some very nice neighborhoods. But you know, there's always that one neighbor you wish you didn't have to live next to. Maybe they're loud and obnoxious. Maybe they threaten you. Maybe they've scared you. Maybe you've had run-ins with them before. If you have neighbors you don't like living next door to you, you are a stuck sitting duck for the rest of your lease or until you can move or they move. Not so for nomads. My van home is a lockable steel box on wheels. If something makes me even a little uncomfortable, I know where my keys are. I can pop them in the ignition, drive away to a safer or quieter location. You can't do that with a house. If you have creeps for neighbors, you're pretty much stuck with them. In van life, again, I'm going to keep saying that. You don't like your neighborhood, you feel uncomfortable, you just leave. find a safer place. It's beautiful. I feel safer that way, and I know a lot of women do. But a lot of that safety depends on making reasonable, common sense decisions before you've even left your home and your sticks and bricks life. So, one of the first, before you've bought your rig, you want to head out on the road, but I want to I want to make sure that everybody knows it's very important to operate your rig and know how to operate all the components of your rig so you don't have to depend on the kindness of strangers. Like, for example, can you take your trailer on and off your vehicle? Do you know how to change a tire? Do you know if you even have a spare tire? Do you have a tent? Can you put it up by yourself? Have you put it up by yourself? How do you figure out what you know and what you don't know, and what you need to know? My advice, take your rig out for lots of practice runs before you hit the road long term. Stay overnight in your rig in your driveway or a parking lot. Practice, practice, practice. The goal is to live with your setup and figure out how you're going to get along in your specific rig. All of us have different setups. We all have different things that we bring in. We all need to know how to operate them so we don't have to, depend on others. I bet you are wondering, though, what is she talking about? What's learning how to change a tire, deal with your trailer? What does it have to do with safety? I'm going to share a bunch of stories from the road because I think sometimes stories are a little more illustrative than just, telling you, do this, do it my way. I want to tell you about some people, including myself, who have not always made the right decisions or the best decisions. On this particular story, I'm going to change some of the details to protect their privacy because it's a heartbreaking story. But a few months ago, I was camping in Arizona, and a woman told me about a horrible situation she found herself in while she was traveling with a travel trailer. She wasn't brand new to RVing, but it was the first time she had been camping without her former husband. She'd rolled onto BLM land, found a nice place to park. She had very spotty self-service when she got there, but she wasn't worried about it. She didn't want to talk to anybody anyway. She just wanted the space, the beauty. And she thought it'd be okay. She tried to unhitch her trailer from her vehicle, but she couldn't do it. She was having quite a bit of trouble. She'd seen her ex do it many times, but she had never actually done it herself. She thought it would be easy to figure out. Turns out she was very wrong. So she ended up approaching an older guy who was camped nearby by himself. He happily agreed to take the trailer off the hitch for her. And then he said, if you'll have sex with me, I'll help you put it back on. She was shocked, stunned, a little freaked out. And she said no, he left. While later, she went to start her car and she found that the battery was dead. She didn't know if he'd somehow tampered with it or had she somehow depleted it, but she knew she was in a really bad situation. She went to go use her cell phone to call for assistance, but her phone had died too. And she was afraid to leave all of her stuff behind to go walk for help because she no longer trusted this guy, and you can't really blame her. What a mess to find yourself in, right? And none of it would have happened if she'd known how to operate her trailer hitch. So people, please, before you hit the road, know the basics of your setup. Practice, practice, practice. In addition to knowing how to operate your rig, there's a few tools. There's a lot of tools that you can get. I'm going to talk about the very basic ones. These are the minimal things you have starting out as a newbie on the road. Your cell phone. Most important tool you have, I think, in accessing safety and assistance. It can tell you where you are. It can send your location out to people who you might have tracking you, which I also think is a good idea, especially when you first start out. But not only do you need your cell phone, you need to have a charger. Here's my cord. And you need to do as road rules are always telling us, the ABCs of RVing life is always be charging. And that's always make sure your cell phone is charged. Because in this case, had her cell phone been charged, it didn't matter that her battery was dead. She couldn't charge it. Cell phone had been charged, she still could have been able to get help on her own. You're also going to want to make sure you have first aid kit. Doesn't have to be fancy, but you do need to know how to, if you have a safety kit, if you get hurt, so you can stop bleeding, stop some basic minimal first aid stuff. You'll also want to have a shovel. All right, this is a big shovel. I like a big shovel. Sorry, we're in a van. Don't swing the shovel, Dawn. I like the big shovel. There are fold-up shovels that are out there, and I travel with somebody who uses one of those a lot. And I'll tell you, in the 2 or 3 times that I've been stuck, or is it 4, in sand, the big shovel is the thing that would reach all the way underneath the van, where my van was stuck with the undercarriage just sitting in sand, my wheels just turning, not doing anything. Bigger shovel. Well, if we were still using that little shovel, I think we'd still be digging by now. Another thing that's very helpful to help and to get is traction pads, because getting stuck in the desert happens to us a lot. If you're by yourself, you need to be able to get out. But if somebody comes to help you, you might need to have the equipment like a tow strap that you can use on another vehicle by just connecting these ends to the parts of your towable areas on your vehicle. If you have a tow hitch, lots of vehicles, you just have to look on your manual, find out where you'll be able to attach this so that you can, they're not going to pull you out. You're going to get yourself by rolling your wheels, and they're just going to kind of keep you from getting stuck. Tow straps, a way to start your battery. Batteries die, accidents happen, people, leave their lights on. But if you have a dead battery in the desert, you are not going to be able to get out. You won't be able to turn your lights on. It'll be a very uncomfortable experience. The ability to charge your own battery, even if you get assistance from somebody else, they don't have to get in your vehicle. You have more control over that, and you can pick and choose who helps you, rather than waiting for the people to have the tools that you didn't bring along to rescue you. You always want to carry a fire extinguisher. Fire extinguishers are great for fires. They are also good for self-defense. You can spray one of these in somebody's face just as easily as you can in somebody's on a fire. You need to know how to operate this for a campfire, or for a fire inside your van, and you will also be able to use this for self-defense in a non-lethal way. And make sure you always have water. Not having water is going to make you dependent on other people again. Having water buys you a little more time, even if you have to walk someplace. Now, I bet most of you knew that these are very common items, and I'm sure that you've anticipated a lot of these. But for women, I think one of the most important things to have, especially for people who are dwelling in cars or in vans, is a way to pee in your van at night. Why? Well, have you ever driven up to a rest area or a place where, for those of you who depend on public toilets, and then it's not as crowded as you thought it might be, or maybe there's some sketchy characters in the parking lot, you're alone, you're in your car, you're wanting to use that public toilet, but by going outside your vehicle, you're now exposing the fact that you are single, a woman, and you're going to go inside a building and your van's going to be empty. And so you're vulnerable that way. I recommend, you don't have to have the 5-gallon bucket, 3-gallon bucket, 7-gallon bucket. There are easier ways just for emergency situations. You could do this all the time. Some people do, but I highly recommend the plastic bottle with wide mouth jar tops. Guys, this is not a problem for you. Any guys can use any bottle. For women, we need something a little wider. I recommend going with the wider mouth for your bottle. These smaller mouths are a little bit more difficult, but definitely use the containers that have the hand grips, because it is much harder to hold it this way than it is to hold it this way. So have a way to pee in your van at night so you don't have to get outside in an area that you don't really feel safe. The other advantage of these cans, I should say, is that they're small, right? So even if you filled one, and this will get most women through a whole night. This is bigger than most women's bladders, and you should be able to get through an entire night with just one of these. In the morning, you can put these in any shopping bag, any carry bag that you have, drop it in, go in to use the public toilet, and dump your urine responsibly, and none will be the wiser. So, okay, so now you're loaded up. You're you've practiced on your rig, you've got all your safety gear, you're ready to hit the road, and you're thinking about finding safe places to boondock. Uh, you know, what do you look for? What does anybody look for when they are looking for a safe? If safety is their number one concern and they're new on the road, what is the most important thing to have? In my opinion, it's a very good cell signal. It is fine, and I do it all the time. I camp with friends in places where there's very poor signal. Because if you're traveling with buddies, you have backup. You have folks you can rely on if something goes south. But for those of us traveling alone, we really do need to be a little extra smart about how to to avoid leaving ourselves vulnerable. With a cell phone, you can make call for help. You can look something up on your cell phone about how to solve the problem you're in. You can it's a GPS locator for people who may be tracking you. You can take a picture of the parking lot that you're in, text that to somebody, and you'll have geolocating on the picture, along with what was in the area when you're there. So, you just need cell signal at first, in my opinion, is the most important thing to have. And I'm going to share an experience of mine in my early days of this that doesn't put me in a very great light, but it just goes to show that for even the most safety conscious people, we don't realize that an emergency can happen and just so quickly without even, and if you haven't taken certain steps, you're vulnerable. My story was I was camping in Arizona. I was brand new to the road. I was intending to go to one of the van builds. I had met some vegans actually, and the vegans were going to be having a campfire pretty far away. I was not close to them, but I'd met them. I am not a vegan, not a full-fledged vegan anyway. I was still eating quite a bit of meat back then, so I was planning on having steak for dinner, and I decided to go. I told them, no, I'm not going to join everybody for the camp tonight. Have a good night. I'm going to go be back in my rig where I was going to be cooking my steak. And went for a walk. I jumped off a rock and I broke my leg. And not only did I break my leg, it wasn't even a big break. I mean, it wasn't even a big rock. It wasn't all that tall. I just jumped and I fell, landed very badly, and I shattered my leg, sat on my butt, looked down at my leg, which is at this kind of an angle, and realized I didn't have my cell phone. Nobody knew where I was. The sun was going down, and I'd only recently been aware of snakes, scorpions, coyotes, things like that in the desert. And so I was a little bit, I was scared, actually, to be honest. And I started hollering and hollering and hollering, probably for a good 20 minutes before, fortunately, somebody heard me, was able to come and get me rescued. If they hadn't rescued me, I really don't know what would have happened. I think it could have ended very, very badly. So no matter what, have your cell phone on you, even if you think you're going for a short walk. I didn't think I was going to be able to drag myself back to my rig. I didn't think there was any way I was going to be able to drag myself back to my rig. So it would have been a really bad story.
Computer fan is going, so we need to.
Oh, okay. So we're having a little technical difficulty. So
we're gonna go with those.
All right. So I put this in here, and I do what?
And then you plug it
In here. Okay. I knew you'd come in handy today. Thank you. Okay. So how do I sound now? Okay. All right. I can't harp on that whole cell phone thing enough. Ask my daughter. I do it all the time. She's 30. Anyway, so how you set your camp up when you get to your campsite also can contribute a lot to your safety. I like to face my van forward towards my exit. I don't want to be boxed in any way, shape, or form. I want to be able to, if I have to get out, if I see trouble coming, I want to be able to get out. I don't want to have to be doing 3-point turns and trying to inch my way out of there. Always lock your doors and remove your keys from the ignition. Put your keys in a designated safety key space that's near your bed, because you may need those keys in the middle of the night. You don't want to try to be figuring out where you left them the last time. If you have a designated spot where your keys are going to be, That will help you stay safe. And lock your doors. I know when people tell me, "Oh, I sleep in my rig with my doors unlocked and my windows open," and they're by themselves, and that might be okay for guys. I don't know. I would say for a lot of us, until we really understand our surroundings, especially as newbies, locking your doors is one of the most important, simplest steps you can take to save your life, to avoid problem. If they can't get in, you can still drive away. Take account of your surroundings. Does it look okay? Is there anybody around? Who's around? Like I said, take a picture of the parking lot. Maybe one's for your memories so that you can remember where you've been, and one in case you need to know, let folks know where you are and who was there when you got there. Put your privacy curtains up. Put your privacy curtains up. Nobody needs to know how many people are in your van. You would like them to think there's more than just you. If you're thinking defensively, right? Privacy curtains. In fact, a lot of people will put their privacy curtains up before they go to the rest stop that they're going to stop at, so that when they get to their parking spot, all they have to do is take out the keys, lock the door, make sure the windows are up, get in the back, drop the privacy curtain, and then nobody will know. If you're alone, do you have a dog? Do you have 5 sons with you? Who knows what you got? Your privacy gives you an element of surprise and helps keep you safe. Keep your driver's seat clear in case you need to jump into the seat quickly. If you don't want to be having to rearrange things, and this is for things like, especially, if you're overnighting in a rest area, or just any place you feel that you want to make sure you're going to be able to get into your seat. You're not when you're alone. If you're with a group of people, again, these rules don't apply as much. My friends often, we keep our windows open, doors unlocked if we're all together, because we all trust each other. We've been together for a while, and we can count on each other. When I'm alone, I do all of these things. And this comes from my criminal defense background. Keep all valuables out of sight and out of your cab area. If I learned anything from my experience as a criminal defense attorney, most criminals are lazy and opportunistic. Most of my clients were charged with property crimes they didn't leave the house intending to commit. They saw something, it was shiny, and they just wanted it. They couldn't resist temptation, and they stole it. They got caught, and they had me as their attorney. If you lock your doors, put away your cash, put away your keys, put away your laptops, your cell phones, your drones, photography equipment. A lot of the stuff that just is too shiny for some people to resist. If you do that, you'll stay safer, you'll keep more of your stuff, and you may stop somebody from making a very stupid life decision, which I will appreciate. Other steps you can take to stay safe, particularly for women. Make sure your Wi-Fi hotspot doesn't out you as a single solo woman traveler. Like Desert Princess or Mommy's Van. Change it to something like Desert Badass or Roadrunner Van, something either neutral or aggressive, or something that doesn't put you in such a vulnerable light. So say you've done everything right. You've found a place that you feel comfortable. You've done all your practice. You got your safety gear. You've done everything. You may still have to move in the middle of the night. And there are a bunch of different scenarios that can come where this could come up. You're parked someplace, somebody pulls up closer, starts a big party. You've parked someplace and they decide to park right next to you, and a fight breaks out, in the van or in the car, or just, whatever. People walk through and are angry in a Walmart parking lot. Who knows? There's a million scenarios where you just will find you don't feel okay anymore. Always trust your gut. And women, I want to say this again and again, because so many of us have been raised to ignore that little voice or to push it down. Don't make a big deal of that. Oh, they're not really meaning to scare you. Oh, I'm just too nervous. It's me, it's not them. It doesn't matter. If you hear that little voice in you saying, this doesn't seem right, I'm not really comfortable, It doesn't matter if it's a campground, a parking lot, a street. If it doesn't feel safe, it's time to go. And don't worry too much if you're making a big deal about anything. They don't know you. It doesn't matter. You're going to drive on. You're going to go. If you don't leave when you get that feeling, I also guarantee you, you're not going to be able to sleep. You might as well just get in the driver's seat and go to a place that you can sleep.
Excuse me, Dawn.
Sure.
I want to let people know that we are opening up the chat right now for them to ask your questions. So the chat is part of the YouTube channel. Yeah, bring it on. Dawn can take it. It's part of the YouTube channel, but it may not pop up for you. And if that's the case, please press the refresh button, which is that circle arrow. If you're on my Windows machine, that circle arrow is on the left, upper left. On my Mac, it's on the bar that you put in your address. So one other last thing I would request of you is that although Dawn is an attorney, we ask that you not ask your legal questions. It really
not legal advice questions.
Not legal advice. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
No legal advice, but ask your safety questions.
Yes,
she is
please.
Safety Dawn.
Thank you. That's right. I've been Safety Dawn since my daughter was 8 years old, and all of her friends nicknamed me that. And that was 22 years ago. So yeah, I have a long-standing reputation of just kind of keeping an eye out, make sure everybody's safe.
Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you. So I want to go back to that. We were talking about, sometimes you feel like you're making too big a deal of it, and maybe it wasn't really dangerous. And, here's another example from my life. Back before I was in van life, I actually, years and years ago, I had a little Class C Toyota Mini Cruiser. Oh, my word, adorable. I was on the road. I needed to pull into a parking lot. It was at a small park. I needed some sleep. And I thought, this thing pretty good. There were some people in there, but I decided I'll just go to the other end of the parking lot. I wasn't, it was darker and I wasn't real worried. And I, slipped into the back, dropped the privacy curtains, locked the door, put up the windows, did all my little list and a list before you go to bed. Not a bad thing, a checklist to make sure you've done all your safety steps. Hadn't been asleep for very long before I heard a very tentative knock on the window. It was like, and I was like, that might be a cop, but it doesn't sound like a cop. I don't think I'm going to say anything. So I didn't. And then a couple minutes later, I go, a little more. Didn't sound like a cop, but why are they knocking? I still didn't answer. I decided to just kind of peep out my little peephole. There was a very, very tall woman in a dress. And when she saw me kind of looking around, all I heard was, do you want a date? And it turns out it was a sex worker. And I had unknowingly ended up in the middle of a parking lot, which was very known for cruising for sex workers. And so definitely not a cop. I knew that. And definitely, I didn't quite know what to do. Now, I didn't think I was in any real danger, but the whole thing felt weird. Am I the only person in this parking lot engaged in a criminal activity? Are they going to think I'm spying on them? I think I'm a cop. I didn't want to one thing I knew is if I stayed there, I was not going to get any sleep. I just wasn't. So I left. There's almost always a McDonald's, a Walmart, a Cabela's, a 24-hour business that has a lit parking lot that you can get some sleep in. It may not be the quietest place. It might not, but it will probably have security cameras, and it'll probably have a few other people sleeping in their rigs. No matter what situation you find yourself in van life, if something feels off, trust your gut, drive away, and find a better place. And here's another story from my travels that show where I didn't think there was danger, and it turned out it was a lot of danger. I was camping with a friend in San Diego. We were both in our vans, and about 11 p.m. I heard what I thought was a barrage of firecrackers right near our van. I was a little too blasé about it. And when my friend called to say, "Did you hear that? It sounded like gunshots." I was like, yeah. I'm a city mouse. She's a country mouse. I'm like, firecrackers. What are you worried about? And somebody called the police, fortunately, and they descended on the park, made everyone move along, and we kind of looked up what had happened. Another YouTuber had put out a video They had been parked a couple vans behind us. It had been gunshots that had gone off, and his van had actually been hit, and the bullet was inside his van. We were all too blasé about the partying that was getting rowdy. We were too blasé about the elevated voices. We were too blasé about everything in that situation. I don't know why we were. It just was like taking a break from safety. And as Paul Blart says, you never take a holiday from safety, right? But I'll never make that mistake again. I hear firecrackers that close to my van. I'm not going to assume it's firecrackers and kids having fun. I'm going to assume that really time to bug out. And this brings me to another piece of advice, which it sounds like I'm giving advice to my daughters, but it's good advice. Never, 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 never get high or drunk with people you don't know. Everybody on the road seems really nice. It's not, some camps have lots of parties, some camps have no partying. You know, you can find pretty much whatever you want. I happen to like, the big gatherings where, there can be music. Pre-COVID, but we're not doing that anymore. But until we can do that, I am a person who generally likes to be around people. But I have definitely seen people put themselves in some very difficult situations by getting too drunk, too high, and putting themselves in danger. And don't let anyone give you a mixed drink. Bring your own drinks. Always recommend that. Bring your own drinks to a party. It's a very nomad way. Don't accept open bottles or cans. If somebody wants to offer you a drink, they can give you the can, they can give you the bottle, let you open it, and then you drink from that. Don't put your bottle down. Not just because somebody else could put something in it, but there are little critter crawlies out there that will find their way into an open drink. Better to hold your drink it, responsibly get rid of the can or bottle. Because sadly, drugs and alcohol are one of the easiest ways to let down your guard, and there will be people who will take advantage of your incapacitation. Lastly, understand you don't know anyone, any explanation of why you're traveling alone, what your name is, where you're from, where you're going, what the insides of your rig look like, or anything else for that matter. Most folks are great on the road, but you have to understand that there are people who are out there who are looking to take advantage of you not protecting yourself. So, I just, and sometimes people ask questions, they're intending to be friendly and they're trying to break the ice, but their way of doing it is very, puts you on the defensive. You're always the one having to give the information. You don't have to tell anybody your name. You don't have to tell anybody anything. No is a complete sentence. If somebody says, hey, do you want help for that? Or would you like to? The answer is no. And you don't need any explanation. You can get in your rig and drive away. And I haven't said much about gadgets because frankly, you can buy a lot of gadgets that are very expensive that will increase your security. A lot of them for new nomads tend to be cost prohibitive. The two I recommend, though, which are not particularly expensive, are solar powered motion detector lights that you can attach to the outside of your van, preferably your sliding door. I also highly recommend a hand alarm because, criminals do not like light that comes on with motion detectors. In fact, motion detectors are even more effective than just leaving a light on because you can be lulled into a sense of security that the light is on, nobody's going to approach my van. But if the van is dark and then bang, the light comes on, that's going to scare somebody coming up, or in animals as well. They don't like that. Another thing they don't like is this. A handheld alarm that you can set off that will also, that is going to put the element of surprise, put the criminal on the defensive. People have them on their key fobs. I like the handheld one personally because I can use the key fob as well. But those are the two tech gadgets I recommend. The others you can just Google for people who know a lot more about that stuff than I do. One other thing, especially since all of us seem to be, we're all doing this on Zoom and through Facebook, but I also recommend social media blackouts. If you're posting on social media, I do it as well. But when I am camping alone, I never post where I am now. I always post where I was yesterday. that's just in case somebody didn't like some case I had in the past, or maybe doesn't like me for some reason, doesn't necessarily know where I am and where I could be found, especially if I'm looking for privacy. I love social media, but consider not showing your actual location. That concludes my prepared presentation. I'm very interested in your questions about personal safety. Please, let's have them.
Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
Okay. The first question is from James West, and he wants to know, what's your scariest moment on the road?
James, I like your name. First month, my scariest moment on the road was my very first month on the road. And brings up something else I haven't talked as much about. I had never lived outside of New England. I lived in Maine, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. I am a nature girl. I knew all the threats to my safety. We don't have poisonous snakes up there. We don't have poisonous spiders. We have some pretty vicious fish, but sharks, but I know where to swim, where not to swim. In New England, I feel safe. When I came to the desert, I became aware of a whole new breed of critters that I'm not aware of, particularly spiders, snakes, and scorpions, all of which are poisonous. You can avoid them if you're good, but I was not aware of this. This was brand new stuff. I wasn't aware of every single plant out here is prickly and can hurt you if you brush against it. So on my very first, sorry, I'm getting a little far afield. On my first trip out, I was going to another van build, and had only met one other person from Connecticut earlier in the day, but I didn't know where she was camping exactly. And I was camped in a quiet area where there were no generators, kind of away from downtown. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got a pain. It felt like something had bit me. Something poisonous had bit me. My shoulder was on fire. And I kind of ignored it. I thought, I don't know, it's not that big a deal. I didn't have a cell phone signal. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And I started to panic a little bit. I'm thinking, what bit me? I couldn't see. It was also on the back of my shoulder. I had to get into my van and break my camp down, drive closer to Parker at the time, and to find a cell signal, find an emergency room. Good tip to know, any emergency room that you present yourself to is required to treat you whether or not you have insurance. They have to save your life. I had insurance, but I wasn't sure whether an emergency room on the reservation was required to treat me. Turns out they are. But anyway, so I get there and I'm convinced I'm dying, and I'm sure I'm sounding like a blithering idiot. And I tell the doctor, and she looks at me and she says, oh, you have shingles. I'm so sorry. You have shingles. I'm like, shingles! Excellent! I was so psyched. I was probably the most happy person to have ever been diagnosed with shingles in the world, because I thought I was dying, because I didn't know what could have bit me. I didn't know anything about that. So know the know the critters around you. Sorry. What's next?
That was scary, Bill.
It was scary. I was terrified. And if it had been a poisonous animal that bit me and not shingles, anybody who's had shingles will let you know, you feel like you may be dying. It's nasty, nasty stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Good. Okay, Donna's travels. She's asking, what do you look for when deciding where to camp?
All right. Well, this one is interesting, because I would have, if my male presenter had been here, we could have had an interesting conversation about this. But I would say that I'm a lesbian, and when I travel in the world, I definitely look for signs in neighborhoods, in camping groups, sometimes even tattoos, of whether the people I'm about to meet are going to be happy to see me. And if I see a swastika, if I see a Confederate flag, if I see emblems of groups that I think are not going to be happy to see me, I am probably not going to, in fact, I'm definitely not going to pull up there. And I know from my friends who are on the other side of the aisle politically, that I think that they have a similar approach. If they see my rainbow flag, they might not necessarily think that I'm the person they want to hang out with that weekend, and that's fine. The 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 problem is that I like to talk about politics. I love politics in certain kind of settings, and I have no problem debating politics with anybody. But in a camp group where you're going to be sleeping, I think you want to know that you're safe. And I feel that they probably feel the same way as well. I think avoidance in some of those situations is better than trying to bang heads. I'm not looking for a fight from them, and I appreciate that they're not looking for a fight from me too. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. If that and that, I know. I just want to say, that applies to people of color, people of religion, religious groups. We have to just pay attention to the signs and travel safely until maybe the world's a better place. I don't know, but until then, those are realities that we deal with. Okay, sorry.
Wally, Wally is asking, when parking overnight in a parking lot, is it better to park under a light or in a dark corner?
Okay. I have traveled with people who have very different opinions about this. If I'm traveling with somebody else, and there's a bunch of us, I will definitely park in the dark part of the parking lot because it's easier to sleep. I have security camera, privacy curtains for everywhere around my van, but I don't have them for my vent. And so being under a light is a little bright, but being under a light is a lot safer for a couple of reasons. A lot of those parking lots also have cameras, and they can detect who's approaching your van. If you're in the light, if you were in the dark, it is much more difficult for those cameras to pick that up. So that's one of the reasons I like to pick those parking lots, and I want to stay in a place where those security cameras can see me. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Doug Wilson says, I'm afraid of getting the knock. I think he's talking about a police officer. How do you handle that?
Yeah, the knock is more intimidating than once you get used to it and you understand what the knock is about. It's not that big of a deal. But I understand when you first hit the road, it is. And my advice is, you hear the knock, first make sure it's a police officer. All right, police officers don't knock like that, and I don't know how loud it's going to be on the cameras. It's loud. It's usually on your door or your window. It's never gentle, but you don't have to get out of the van. All right, you just need to make sure that's a police officer. And police officers are. I've never been asked to step outside my van by a police officer who was going to tell me to move along. I have stepped outside to talk to police officers when I knew they were police officers, but I've never had a cop say, step on out here, I want to see what you're doing in there. They just want, if you're parked illegally, mostly what they want you to do is move along. I have also had men and women knock on my rig at night for a variety of different things. Usually people are on drugs or hammered and they want money, or one person thought it was his van that I was in. I was like, it's not your van. People begging for money. If I didn't mention that. Never get outside of your van if somebody knocks on it. You keep your doors locked, your windows closed, and you talk through the glass. If you need to talk to them, talk through the glass. There's no reason for you to go out if the talking through the glass doesn't resolve the problem. Get in the driver's seat and go away. But first, make sure it's a cop that's knocking on, because you'll be surprised in certain areas. Cities, you'll get panhandlers.
Yes. Okay, Nomad Linda. I've heard I need a dog to be safe as a solo woman. Do I need a dog?
I love dogs, I have to admit. And if my goal in traveling wasn't to go to a lot of places that dogs weren't allowed, I would love to have a dog, because yes, I think dogs do keep you safer. Nobody wants to deal with not only you, but your dog. Dogs will sense danger faster than you do. Dogs will alert. Sometimes dogs can, they'll that they detect the motion. I think they can kind of sense malevolent intent. So I do love having dogs, but dogs, on the other hand, in the age of COVID, are a kind of an attractive nuisance. I've seen this with people I've camped with. People use your dog as an excuse to get to know you. People try to get information out of you via your dog. And, we've seen that in dog parks. It's a dog is one of the best items you could have in as a pickup item. Cute dog, you can meet, all kinds of people that way. But it's also, you just have to remember that, particularly in COVID, I tell people to keep their distance. Don't let people make buddies with your dog until they're buddies with you first. uh, don't feel very comfortable about saying, no, he's my comfort dog. I really don't want to have anybody messing with my dog, or he's not friendly. Whatever you want to say is fine, but just be aware your dog can both be a plus and a minus, a blessing and a curse.
Okay. The next question is from Desert Princess. She asks, is it safe to leave my stuff at my campground when I run errands?
Well, I wouldn't leave. So I'm assuming what you're saying is you've set up your table, maybe your grill, maybe, I don't know, a chair outside, and you're leaving it there to keep your campsite. And I think if you're just leaving that stuff, you can probably get away with it, but I wouldn't leave anything out that I wasn't worried about being stolen, because, you just don't know whether somebody feels that they need that thing more than you need that thing. It's a shiny item for some people, but for the most part, I've never known anybody who's had like a table or a chair stolen from a campsite. But I do know people who've left solar panels out. I do know people who've left other equipment out, and that has been stolen. Even one person covered a generator, didn't want to put it back in, covered the generator, put it under the table. Generator was gone. So, you never know who's watching. You never know who's paying attention to that stuff. Leave the expensive stuff in your vehicle. Don't leave you put your chairs out though. I think your chairs are safe.
There you go. Henry S. asks, do I need to get a gun or take a self-defense class before I go on the road?
I don't know. You're going to have to make that assessment yourself. I like to share the advice my daughter's karate teacher gave her, and it made me know that he was the perfect karate teacher for her. And Elliot used to tell the story on the first day of class. He'd say, when people know I'm a karate instructor, lots of times people want to know a few defensive moves. And this particular guy come up to me and he said, I need to know karate. I am constantly getting beat up, and I need to be able to protect myself. And Ellie said, well, where are you that you're always getting beaten up? He was like, the normal places, bars, concerts, whatever. And Elliot said, you might want to start thinking about hanging out in other places other than bars and places where alcohol is served. Like, where fights almost never break out? Libraries. Never break out in libraries. I don't know if that's true, but it was what he said. And the thing is that I think it's really good advice. If you are, if you're going out to the slabs and you are not with a safe group and you just want to check out what's out there, you may find yourself in some very serious danger. So you need to, I'm not saying the slabs is always dangerous. I think it's a fascinating place, but you need to be smart about it. Camp with a group. Don't get drunk or high with a bunch of people you don't know in the desert. Don't go back to your rig alone. If you do all those things, the freedom out here is wonderful. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. I love it, but you still have to use all the same kind of good decision-making skills you have that you would want your daughter to use when she goes off to college. So try to think about it that way. I can't tell you, yes, get a gun, no, get a gun. Yes, take a self-defense class. No, because you need to know that you're going to be the kind of person that's going to know how to use those tools effectively, safely, and legally. And if you drink a lot, I wouldn't recommend getting a gun. Handling a gun when you're drunk is never a good idea. Handling a gun when you're high, never a good idea. Self-defense, I think, probably couldn't hurt you, but if it makes you feel falsely, or kind of irrationally safe in the world, you might make dumber decisions because you think, I know how to throw somebody. Yeah, you may not know how to throw somebody who has a gun. Better to just go away. So that's what my approach: avoidance, evasion. Save confrontations for verbal sparring. But when it comes to nomad life, our bodies are, we only got one.
Okay. Okay. Jesse's Van Life asks, can you speak to weather issues and safety?
Yeah, I didn't really touch on that. When you go out on your own, like I said, I know all the weather patterns in Maine, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. I'm built for snow. Hurricanes don't scare me. I know what to do, where to go, where not to go. Tornado country in the Midwest scares the heck out of me. Fire season in the West scares me. Earthquakes, oh my God. I don't even know what I would do. I've only felt one and I did not like it. But fortunately, with the weather reporting services that we have, it is pretty easy to keep an eye on a lot of weather symptoms. Now, obviously, you may not know that the big earthquake is coming, but you'll know about a lot of other ones coming afterwards. Tornadoes, we're getting better at predicting as well in the areas, and you need to, as a nomad, kind of pay attention to the weather. And nomads are really good about sharing that. I've been in places where we knew a big storm was coming and people we weren't camping with made sure they came through and said, hey, there's a big storm coming through. Pay attention to those warnings. In the desert, what I didn't know, I thought washes were the best place to park. Never park your van in a wash, because a rainstorm can come 60 miles up the road and wash down towards you. You didn't know it was coming. And then you are going to be, your car is going to be stuck and you might lose everything. In fact, in an RTR I was at a couple of years ago, we had a lot of rain in that RTR. And what I also didn't know is if it starts raining, don't move your car. That's everything under you is the only thing that's dry. It's the driest land you're going to be on. If you move your car, all that desert cement is going to get soft, like snowy slush. And one of our campmates was working at the RTR, got in her Prius, tried to drive away, went right down to the body. It was like the tire tracks she left were amazing. It was lucky we had a friend with four-wheel drive and a pickup truck towed her out. Right, Suzanne? Suzanne? Suzanne, sorry.
Okay, you guys, that's the one and only time I got this.
Right. You were under pressure though. But yes, but that is the kind of thing that I didn't know. So, those are, you stay until it dries and then you go. Lesson learned. Thank you, Sue-Ann, for role modeling all of that for us.
Okay, thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
Okay, Shadow of the Moon asks, do people ever worry about losing their car key? Should I have extras in case I may misplace my key? How can I carry it with me without losing it?
Boy, this is a good question. There are a lot of ways to do that. There are magnetic lock key holders that you can get if you have a small enough key, or you buy one that's big enough that holds your particular key. The trick is finding a good safe space on your vehicle that it can attach to, that you can get it off in an emergency, and then periodically check to keep making sure that it's there. I have a set of keys that my daughter has. I mean, she's in California, but the thing is, if I needed her to FedEx them to me overnight, if I couldn't get in, I would stay with friends and get into it. And I have one that's on the outside of my vehicle as well, in a pretty much impossible to find place. But I recommend it. Yeah, it's always a good idea. Otherwise, you're going to be breaking in your window, calling locksmiths. Those are expensive things.
Yes. Okay, Skyla, is asking, how do people carry cash, emergency cash in their vehicle? I'd like to have some cash on hand in case I lose my debit card.
Boy, everybody has their own little hiding place for their cash. I keep what I need in my wallet. Some people have safes. I'm always amazed at YouTubers who have safes and then do a YouTube video and show you where their safe is. That never seems like a good idea to me. And in fact, if you do YouTube videos, you should always hide your more expensive shiny stuff. Yeah, I mean, you can build in places that nobody would ever think to look, that only you would know that you have a significant amount of cash in a place that Nobody, they're going to go through, they're going to rip through your drawers, under your bed, all your storage places, and the amount of time they have. There are a lot of places on a van. Just think about it, where you could build in a little spot that nobody's going to find. And I highly recommend that. I do that too. Most people I know do that. Almost
Okay.
no one I know has a safe. Because what's the point? Once they find the safe, they can,
Or they're just not telling you.
Oh, you think they're not telling me? Yeah, that's possible.
Okay.
I might share the story on some YouTube video. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't tell Dawn anything.
Okay, Deb Borjas or Borjas. I'm sorry, Deb. I probably said your last name wrong both ways. She's asked, do you sleep with your clothes on in case you have to leave in the night?
Well, that's a good. Let me just. It's getting a little warm in here. Thanks. I sleep in shorts usually because if I honestly, I sometimes sleep fully clothed if I'm just traveling by myself and I'm on to some place and I'm going to a rest area. I will just sleep in shorts and a t-shirt so that I can get up when I get up. If I'm camping with my friends, I feel much more safer. I feel much safer to wear whatever I want to wear. And so, as a general rule, that's what I do. I can't speak for everybody else. Most people, the thing is, you're going to get more comfortable. When you start out, you're going to be a little bit like, oh my God, I'm scared. Every single night you're out there, every single camping experience you have, you're going to learn more things. You're going to be more confident in yourself and your ability to handle things. You're going to have a better sense about when things are safe and when things aren't safe. So you'll know when it's okay to sleep in your birthday suit and when it's, maybe you want to be sleeping fully clothed. That's my best answer. I was trying to think of every question I might get, and I did not see that one come in. I bet it's from one of my friends. Anyway, and thank you guys. Sorry.
So, another perspective. I have always slept in a loose fitting dress. I figured that way, if I have to get out, I'm still fully clothed, and it makes bathroom duties at night easier.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
right.
That's so I guess if somebody asked me that, I would say yes, I do sleep in my clothes. But
yeah, I think that's smart.
Okay, that was a fast hour, Dawn.
Wow, it was.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the questions were great. That last one, yeah, thanks. I'm almost never speechless. That one got me a little bit.
With that, I want to let you make some closing remarks, if you have any.
I guess my closing remarks would be that I have found van life to be one of the most wonderful, liberating, freeing, growing experiences in my life. I love the freedom that comes with it. I have always loved road trips, and the idea to be able to stay out here, really learn another part of the country, learn the different cultures in this amazing country all over the place. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But it can go south for people. And I've known people for whom it's gone south and it wasn't fun. And partly it was because their fears got the best of them. My advice is figure out what you don't know. Watch lots of YouTube videos. There are lots of people. HOWA produces wonderful classes. And there are other YouTubers, Joni from the Galavan, wonderful videos. I have a lot of favorites. And we all offer our perspectives. And you'll find the information that works best for you, for the way you travel, and it will be, you'll like that. I mean, don't think of this as kind of a restriction on your freedoms. Think about these as the reasonable, smart steps that we take so that we get to continue to live this amazing, adventurous life. I love it. I hope I'm doing this 20 years from now. And you can ask me 20 years from now what I wear when I go to bed, and we'll see if the answer is the same. Who knows? But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. If you have more comments in the comment section, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank
anyway,
you.
Thank you.
So much. This was informative and enjoyable.
Great.
Yeah.
Take care.